to Movie Rants, the show that periodically shows up and barely any of you watch. It's great to be back! As the movie Logan has come out, and it's gotten instant success due to its violent and extremely graphic sense of brutality, it got me thinking, does darker superhero movies mean more success? Logan is an extremely violent movie. It's rated R, and it's one of the first X-Men movies, besides Deadpool, to be rated R. But the difference between Deadpool and Wolverine, Logan in this case, is something that's very different. Logan is very rated R because of the violence. Yes, Deadpool had a lot of violence with the headshots and the decapitations, but its rated R-ness wasn't focused on the fact that it was violent, it was more focused on the fact that it was vulgar. But does that make darkness okay? People didn't like Batman v Superman because they thought it was too dark or too just depressing. But other people love a film like Guardians of the Galaxy because of its lightheartedness and just joy. But people also claim that Marvel is too light and they don't do darkness. My opinion? I think darkness in films works depending on the story that you're angling with. A film like The Dark Knight Rises is meant to be dark. That's why it's called The Dark Knight Rises. It's meant to show the grief and the agony that a character goes through. Because Batman is a character that is supposed to be dark. He's supposed to be brooding. But can you be too dark and brooding? A lot of people didn't like the Batman v Superman Batman because he was at a point of despair. He was at a point where he was okay with murdering and he was just done. Well, you can say the same thing about Logan in the Wolverine film. He's just at the end. He's old man Logan at this point. So he's murdering and he's killing without a care. But the difference between that is, if you look at the history of the characters, their stances on brutality differ. People like their characters to stick close to their canon. The reason people had a problem with the violence and brutality in Batman v Superman was because it didn't fit what they expected Batman to be like. The reason people are praising the violence shown in Logan is because it's exactly what they've always wanted from Wolverine. Because before, Wolverine was stuck in a PG-13 rating system with the X-Men movies, where yeah, he could stab someone, but they wouldn't show the true effects of what a man with really sharp adamantium claws impaling your head would look like. Whereas Batman has always been PG-13. There hasn't been a rated R Batman movie. Actually, that's wrong, there has been. There's been The Killing Joke. That was rated R, but not really for violence. More of just Barbara Gordon getting shot in the sexual horror. But I digress. The reason people keep Batman PG-13 is because, well, you want people to see it. But more of the fact that if you watch The Dark Knight, it could have been rated R. The reason it wasn't is because they took out anything else that would have destroyed a PG-13 rating solely to focus on one thing, being the violence. Any scene that Heath Ledger's Joker shows up in is terrifying. It's dark. It's gruesome. But that goes to the other end of the spectrum. Is it okay to be too lighthearted in films? Is Marvel taking away its characters' ability to grow by making them all turn into jokes? Well, in some ways, yes. A lot of scenes in a Marvel movie can be undercut by the hero's ability to tell a joke. The reason Captain America, the Winter Soldier, is the best Marvel movie is because it's the one that takes itself the most seriously. Yes, there are still humor in there, with the Falcon and other things, but the movie allows itself to be a dark movie. But not always through violence. Yes, you do get some especially brutal scenes, especially the final fight between the Winter Soldier and Captain America. But it's more of the underlying theme, saying that yes, darkness is there, but there's still hope. If you've seen the movie, you know that the ending is filled with hope. It's more of the lack of any form of lightness that people don't like in superhero movies. But even that meaning, there can be too much lightness. One of the main problems with Avengers Age of Ultron was it would often undercut a really dark moment with humorous dialogue, destroying the impact of what the moment was supposed to be like. It's the reason Ultron failed to be a terrifying villain in some points is because they felt that they needed to make him be funny. If they had kept him as a dark, ominous presence, he would have been more intimidating. But because they had the need for him to be cracking jokes like Iron Man, it destroyed the darkness that he could have created. But at the same time, a film like Guardians of the Galaxy, which had some darkness in it, but is mostly just humorous dialogue, works really well. And there's a reason for this. The character interactions are amazing. The way every character exists and interacts with every other character is hilarious. And it's lighthearted for a good reason. It's obscure. The reason Batman v Superman didn't work so well as people thought is because the interactions between characters wasn't human. It was more of reasons to create a plot. Even Superman, who is normally a lighthearted character in the comics, was kind of just there to mope and he looked depressed. That's not the Superman people are used to. Now, I'm not saying make Superman extremely funny and make him cracking jokes 24/7. I'm more of saying that make a Superman who sees hope. At the same time, this could go into the superhero world of TV. The reason people like The Flash so much is because it's fun to watch. It's full of bright colors. The difference between Arrow and Flash is Arrow is much darker than The Flash. Yet, The Flash still is much more fun to watch. Because it takes something that they know is ridiculous and they make it fun. That doesn't mean The Flash can't deal with dark tones, dealing with the death of parents, dealing with abuse and other things. But The Flash takes everything with a grain of salt. They know that they can't always just focus on the horrible things. They have to focus on some of the fun things. The reason a lot of people fell off of the Arrow bandwagon was because it began taking itself too seriously. Which leads to my final point. The best thing that a superhero film can do is to balance itself. You can't have too much humor, but you can't have too much grimness. You want a balance between the two. You want to be able to see hope. Because that's what people look for in superhero movies. They look towards a hope that they can see in these imaginary characters who don't exist, but are able to make them feel good. If you watch the film Birdman with Michael Keaton, one of the best lines is when Michael Keaton's walking down the street and Birdman kind of soars past him and goes, "You help them escape from their pitiful lives." That's what people go and watch superheroes for. It's escapism. They don't want to be shown the dark grittiness of reality. They want to be shown humor and happiness. But grimness allows for storytelling. The reason Logan is doing so well is because it's very honest with its portrayal of death, with its portrayal of what depression and the end of what someone's life looks like. That doesn't mean that there's not any lightheartedness in there. No, there's still hope, but it's not the center stage. Marvel especially is getting to the point where every character needs to be funny, which is okay because it's a good way to make money, but at the same time, depression, sadness, death, it allows for character moments. And often when Marvel tries to pull a deep character moment, it's undercut by the fact that it doesn't always work. Can violence be too much in a film? Or a TV show in this case? Yeah, it really can. But sometimes violence in films for superhero movies allows to give style. If you watch The Wolverine, it has a very Quentin Tarantino-esque way with the samurai sword fights and just the violence of Wolverine giving himself a heart exam. The best superhero show to describe stylized violence in is Gotham. The fact where it's not realistic violence like Daredevil, which is just hard to watch in some points because you can hear the bones breaking, you can see the blood spewing. No, Gotham's violence is cartoonishly outlandish, with people eating each other or throwing C4 in their pants then exploding, to the point where there's just a scene where someone takes a spoon and they shove their own eyeball out. Yeah, that's disgusting. They show it on screen. But it's so over the top that you can't stand but go, that's kind of funny. Scenes like that would never be shown on Legends of Tomorrow or The Flash or Season 1 and 2 and possibly 3 of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 4 is kind of getting a little bit dark with the LMDs and the Ghost Rider. But the violence in superhero films leads back to the one and final point of why it's there. Because of the characters. Some superhero characters aren't overly violent. Others are. You're not going to have the Punisher cracking jokes, but neither are you going to have Ant-Man snapping people's necks. It's when it moves together that it changes. When people see characters who they thought would act one way, act on the other way. When you see Batman killing, or you see Ultron cracking jokes, it kind of gives you an uneasy settling in your stomach, because you don't want that to happen. Final thoughts. I think, personally, I would like some more darkness in superhero movies. Not meaning that I want nothing but depression, nothing but Logan's sadness, but I think darkness allows for the story to progress in different ways. I think it sometimes allows a character to grow, but at the same time, it can also cloud over any sense of hope. I think the most important part of superheroes is hope. That's why Spider-Man is so beloved by everyone, whether it be comic readers, movie fans, fan filmmakers. It's because Spider-Man has something that almost no other superhero has. A constant thought of hope. He sees the good in people, he sees the good in himself, he tries not to kill, he does his best to make sure everyone lives. Spider-Man is the one character who isn't made extremely violent in films. He's not made extremely violent anywhere. He's had his moments. He's beat the living pulp out of Kingpin in the Civil War comics. He almost killed Sin Eater in the Death of Jean DeWolf comics. He's done these interestingly terrible things to certain times. But if you notice the difference between Spider-Man or the Punisher, which is just a great comparison in general, is Spider-Man doesn't do these things until he gets to the very end. Until he's lost everything, he tries not to get to this point of sadness. He tries not to get to this darkness. And I think that's how superhero movies should work. But the thing is, I think that's how superhero movies should work. They shouldn't have to get to this realm of darkness unless it's truly necessary. Unless it's used to build the character. Unless it's used to build the story. That's why Logan is such a good idea. That's why it's going to be, why it is one of the greatest superhero movies that exists. Because it's Wolverine has been 17 years. We've had 17 years of Hugh Jackman being this character. From X-Men Origins Wolverine to Logan now, we've watched him grow. We've watched a character grow from the ability to be kind of violent in X-Men, where he's still allowed to slice people up and beat them up in cage fights, to the point of Logan, where he's able to take his claws and shove them up at someone's head. And you get to watch the gory details. The gore's not there to be a gimmick. It's there to solidify the character. The gore's there to show what Wolverine's gone through. It's shown to be what kind of character he is. Like the violence in Deadpool, it's there. Violence isn't what makes Deadpool a character, but it's there to show him that he's a different type of character. The violence in The Dark Knight isn't there to show that Batman's a violent character. It's to show that he's up against a violent foe. A foe who will stop at nothing. The violence in Batman v Superman, it's more there just to watch. It's more there because Zack Snyder wanted some flashy visuals, some good effects. It doesn't progress the character. It kind of can. It can show you where Batman is, but it's not going to show you how he got there. And in the end, violence in superhero films is like everything else. It has to be taken in moderation. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe. Comment saying you'd like me to do. I like these editorials. They're fun to do. And, come back again. What did you think of Wolverine? What do you think of Logan? And what's your opinion on the violence in the superhero movies? Movie Rants Dude out.